All right. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, I want to keep talking about using Venn diagrams to help us sort out survey data and answer meaningful questions about those survey data. The next example that I want to take a look at, again, I'm assuming you've got the PowerPoint slides handy. Hit the flip the page if you printed them or what have you. Anyway, so this time around, it's going to get a little more complicated. So instead of talking about our community engagement office, imagine we're looking at like a student activities board, something along those lines, trying to figure out the kinds of things they, students are typically doing, like on a standard weekend. So they've surveyed folks. I don't know, however they would have gotten the data digitally or camping someplace on campus and handing out paper surveys and getting responses, whatever. So they surveyed 110 students about what they do on a typical weekend. So 48 of the survey responses say that they did something sports related, be it like playing sports, watching sports on television, what have you. 55 people responded that they would watch movies. Once upon a time, I would say out in the cinema, maybe they're going to a drive-in, I don't know, or just streaming them off Netflix or what have you. So 48 sports, 55 movies, and then my data are woefully out of date at this point. 22 students responded that they would play video games on a typical weekend. So like I said, I'm sure that number would be way higher. But anywho, continuing on. So then sort of breaking it down in categories, people who did two of these three things. So 22 students responded that they did sports stuff and watched movies. 10 people did both sports-related activities and played video games. 15 people did both movies and games. And then we have 6 respondents said in a typical weekend they apparently have lots and lots of free time because they get in all 3 of these activities over a typical weekend. I kind of wish I had that much time now. I'm trying to remember if I did when I was a college student, but whatever. All right, so if we want to fill in our Venn diagram here, based on the data that I just kind of rattled off, so this time around, we've got 3 distinct activities. So hopefully it stands to reason we're going to have 3 distinct sets. And I've got to try to make them big enough that you can actually read something I write into each chunk in this instance. Okay. So following that same principle I've laid out before, that inside-out thing, let's go right here. So I said 6 of our survey respondents participated in all 3 activities. I guess I should probably label these, right? That would be good. So S for sports, M for movies, G for games. All right, there we go. Now I actually know. It technically wouldn't have changed that 6, but then it would have been important to label everything else, right? All right. So now we sort of work our way outward. So I kind of imagine this almost like a fan, like I kind of spiral around. So I come from here. I'll usually go up to this spot next. So that's in the overlap of the S and M circles. So those should be folks who did both sports and movies. Now again, be careful, hold your horses, don't immediately plug in the number 22, even though that's what I said earlier and what's sitting on the slide. Remember, the overlap, that intersection, is actually this whole thing, and we've already got 6 people in there. So we don't just want to write in 22 because then that says we got 28. We just manufactured extra survey responses. That's a good way to get in trouble. So we have 22 people in total. We've already accounted for 6. 22 minus 6 gives us a 16 going into that spot. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So kind of work our way around. I go counterclockwise. If you've done clockwise, it's also fine. So over here, that's the sports games overlap. Again, we've already got 6 accounted for in this region. We need a total of 10. 10 minus 6, that is in fact 4. Same deal, working our way around here. I sort of said inside outward. So I go for the all 3 overlap, then the double overlaps before I hit these sort of outside flower petal things. I don't know what to call them. So over here, we should have 15 people in total in the movies and games category. Again, we've got 6 already spoken for. 15 minus 6, we get 9 people right there. All right. Now, kind of continuing along, I started here. Let's just move up to this next guy. Like I said, I don't know what. I like to go counterclockwise. So far, we've accounted for 16 plus 6 plus 9. If I'm doing my arithmetic right, that's 31 people in total How many should we have in the movie circle? Wind back, look at the slide, whatever. There should be 55. We've already got 31. 55 minus 31 is, in fact, 24. Okay, there we go. So continuing around, what about the sports folks? Well, we should have a total of 48. We've already got 4 plus 6 is 10, plus another 16 is 26. So, 48 minus 26. Double deuce, 22, up there. Okay. Lastly, I said we had 22 people who were doing video games. So far, if you look at what we've already got inside the circle for the G set, that's 19. So apparently only 3 people were only playing video games. So nobody who's doing nothing but Call of Duty marathons or what have you. All right. So again, we filled in all the region inside the circles. Are we done? Exactly. That's very clever of you. No, we're not done yet because we haven't accounted for everybody who's in the survey at this point. All right. So you may need to pause for a moment and bust out a calculator and do some quick addition to figure out what all we got here. If I'm doing my arithmetic right, spoilers, I did this off camera. I'm getting that we should have 84 people that we've accounted for if you add up all of the numbers in here. So we have a total of 84. How many did we survey? I said it was 110. So 110 minus 84, that's going to give me, 26. So like how I'm acting like I haven't already done the arithmetic. So here's our completed Venn diagram. All right. So now, like I said, we've got this. This is sort of step 2. Everything's filled in. Step 3 says, well, what if you need to answer some questions about this? So what if, say, the activities board wanted to know how many people were doing exactly one of these things or only one activity? Well, based on our diagram, that would be, these folks in these 3 outside regions. So we have 22 plus 24 plus 3. So that's 49 who did only one thing. All right. So what if they wanted to know, well, movies or games? So, or possibly both. Remember, or always includes the both or the and for us in this course. So now I need everybody that's in the M circle along with everybody who's in the G circle. Now, we couldn't just do the 55 plus 22 from earlier because then, like we've said, that's double counting. If you add up all of the numbers in here, which, spoilers, it should be 55, right? So plus the other 7 from these 2 pieces that are inside the game circle but not in the movie circle, we get 62. And kind of like we did before, so we have 26 folks who weren't doing any of these things. The sort of the joke I usually make in class is that they're Twitter stalking celebrities all weekend. So, I'm not endorsing Twitter stalking celebrities, but you get the idea. So we have 26 who did none of these activities. All right, so those are raw numbers. Fairly often, though, you may actually want a percentage, and some of the homework problems actually ask what percentage of the survey respondents fell into a given category. So in that instance, remember, we would need to take this and we divide by the total number of people who took the survey. So you have 26 divided by that 110. So when I worked that out, I got a decimal of 0.236. If you want to take a decimal like this and turn it into a percentage, hopefully you remember you kind of multiply by 100 or move the decimal point a couple of times. So we'd have 23.6%. All right, so that's our first example down. I want to take a look at one more. It's a bit different in approach, and it's one I ripped straight out of the textbook. Give me just a sec to clean this up. So the next example in our PowerPoint slides, it talks about allergy clinic patients, and I like bringing this one up because it turns out every now and again, that inside-out approach where we start from the center and sort of work outward, that feels logical to me. If I had actual survey data, that's kind of how I would sort things, who checked all 3 boxes, that kind of thing. Not everybody's mind functions that way, so maybe your data end up coming to you in a slightly different manner. And if you'll notice the numbers in this particular set of survey results, yeah, they bear that out. So we've got Dr. Hawk, I think was the name from the homework problem, is running an allergy clinic, And he's apparently a super specialist because he only, has patients with one of three allergies: the dairy, pollen, or animal dander. That's it. That's all he does, which is, it feels really strange to me, but whatever. And suppose somebody has like contacted him and said, well, would you be interested in some particular program for folks who are allergic to dairy products? And he's trying to figure out, if enough of his, patient base, justifies, whatever they're doing. All right, so looking at this, we can kind of filter through the numbers. 68 people are allergic to dairy, 93 pollen, 91 animal dander. Don't just write those numbers on the outside, though. Just like we did with the activity stuff, we can't go there. We can, however, use sort of the other numbers to fill things out. So in terms of who's allergic to all three things, those poor unfortunate folks, there were 31 of them in this survey. So again, those 31 go right there. Now we're a little stuck here. We don't have sort of what we could do to sort of fan outward like before. We do know, however, that 29 of the patients are only allergic to pollen. So they only have that one allergy, which means they would go, that's right, if they're only allergic to pollen, they need to be in here in the P circle, nowhere else. So that would give me 29. I managed to forget my number. That's great. By the same token, we had 12 people with only a dairy allergy. They would go over in that chunk. And now we can sort of work out the arithmetic. We're just about there. There's only one piece of information we haven't used explicitly yet. We should have 40 people who are allergic to both dairy and pollen. Well, like we've done before, that's in this overlap. Of how many do we have already? We have 31. We need 40. That means we need 9 people right there. And now we can continue working our way outward to fill in these remaining chunks of the diagram. So in total, we've got 31 plus 9 is 40. 52 folks in the dairy circle. We should have 68. That's going to give me a 16 right there. 40. We have 69 folks already accounted for inside the pollen circle. We should have 93. So that gives us 24. And then lastly, we should have 91 animal dander, allergy sufferers. We've got 71 taken care of already. So 91 minus 71, we've got 20 that go right there. And apparently Dr. Hawk doesn't have any other patients because there's nothing that goes in the outside in this particular instance. Again, he is very, very specialized. He's very good with the milk and the pollen and the whatnot. Anywho, so coming back, if we want to know what percentage of his patients had only a dairy allergy, well, we know 68, so that's our only dairy. If we add up all of the numbers in here, again, I did this arithmetic off camera. I came up with a total of 141 people in the survey if you add up all 7 of these figures. So we have 68 divided by 141. That is approximately 0.482 or 48.2 as a percentage. So a little less than half of the, the client base, which again may seem kind of, kind of higher than you might expect if you just looked at the raw dairy pollen dander numbers. So there's a dairy pollen dander. That's very hard to say, dairy pollen dander. Anyway, so that gives us sort of one thing, to, as you say, one big application where we can actually use this Venn diagram stuff to help us out. I did want to come back and take a look at one more thing. You may recall that I said stick a pin in this. So yeah, we're going to go back and pull out the pin next time.